So if you haven't heard, Nando V Movies has started a YouTube project called One Musical Scene, where people talk about their favourite uses of music in film and television. And as YouTube's foremost Murray Gold scholar, I figured what better time than this to jump on a bandwagon. It seems that no one's talked about my favourite show Doctor Who yet, so I'm here to rectify that. And brace yourselves, because it's going to be a real tearjerker. I'd like to look at the very last scene of the Series 2 finale, Doomsday. This is Rose Tyler, and for the last few years she's been travelling in time with an immortal alien called the Doctor. In that time, the relationship between them has developed, going from friends to essentially being a couple in all but name. And that's why it's such a shame that Rose has just gotten herself trapped in a parallel world forever. Fortunately, the Doctor's managed to find a gap between realities, giving them just enough time to say goodbye. So at this point the viewer knows there's no way for them to be together, meaning the dramatic tension of the scene comes from whether they'll be able to achieve closure. It's clear they have feelings for one another, but will they actually say it? Do they even need to say it? If you only had 2 minutes to say goodbye to someone you loved, how would you spend it? Musically, the scene is split into 4 different cues: Blood Control, The Impossible Planet, Rose's theme, and the Lone Dalek. So let's look at each of those in turn.
Burning up a sun just to say goodbye.
I call this track Blood Control because of the scene it's used in the Christmas Invasion, but before now, its most significant outing has been in The Age of Steel. In a similar scene to Doomsday, the Doctor and Rose have a few minutes to say their goodbyes before leaving the parallel world. Rose tries to use this time to reach out to the father who in her world died when she was a child.
Dad.
Just that.
But it doesn't work out, and Rose fails to get the resolution she was hoping for. This sets up a subconscious association in the listener's mind between the Blood Control theme and Rose's search for closure.
Where are we? Where did the gap come out?
We're in Norway.
Norway, right.
It's interesting how, while the music's very tense, the dialogue at this stage is quite casual.
You've still got Mr. Mickey then?
We hear these creeping, ascending string melodies and foreboding harp ostinatos. All the while the Doctor and Rose are making small talk about where they are, how a family are doing, stuff like that. But I think that's a case of the score conveying those unspoken underlying emotions. They're getting the admin out of the way, but the music's there to remind us that they're running out of time. And indeed, it's not long before they start to get mushy, which is where composer Murray Gold segues into the next cue.
Here you are, living a life day after day. The one adventure I can never have.
If there can be said to be a Dr. Rose love theme, I think it's The Impossible Planet, first heard in the episode of the same name. If Blood Control represents Rose seeking closure, I think The Impossible Planet is more about the impossible dream of the Doctor and Rose having a fairy tale ending. There's a fascinating trilogy of scenes that use this theme. The first time you hear it, they're stranded on a base and having to consider settling down together.
Everyone leaves home in the end.
Not to end up stuck here.
Yeah, but stuck with you, that's not so bad.
Then the next time, Rose's mum Jackie warns her about what she could turn into if she never stops travelling with the Doctor.
Strange woman walking through the marketplace on some planet a billion miles from Earth. But she's not Rose Tyler. Not anymore.
These two scenes raise the question, could they have ever been happy? Would Rose lose her humanity if she never left the TARDIS? Could the Doctor bear to see her age and die?
You can spend the rest of your life with me. But I can't spend the rest of mine with you. I have to live on.
I think the theme's inclusion in their final scene together seems to suggest that perhaps this was for the best. It was always an impossible dream. Which of course doesn't make it any less heartbreaking.
I love you.
Quite right, Tim.
Now strangely, there's nothing in particular to musically mark Rose saying I love you. No big crescendo or melody, just some understated string chords. And what that says to me is that the other shoe hasn't dropped yet. Rose finally telling the Doctor how she feels is only half the picture, and it sets up a dramatic question. Will he say it back?
And I suppose It's my last chance to say it. Rose Tyler.
No, Doctor! Why didn't you say it faster? Why did you leave such a big pause? I think why this is so hard to watch is because the score sets you up to expect the Doctor to say I love you. One of the most satisfying things you can hear in a piece of music is a perfect cadence, which is when the dominant chord resolves to the tonic chord. It's such a fundamental part of musical theory that we're hardwired to expect it, which is why it's so unsatisfying when a composer subverts that expectation. The first note we hear from Rose's theme is a C, the tonic note of the C major scale, which tricks you into thinking it's about to do this. I love you too, Rose. Well, at least I said it. Good thing I didn't leave a massive pause. But instead the melody falls to a B, the leading note, creating this painful tritone between the melody and the bass line. Instead of a perfect cadence, we get an interrupted cadence, which sounds deliberately unresolved. It's the opposite of satisfying. And indeed, the idea of ending up somewhere unexpected is central to Rose's theme. It's often used at moments when a character's life has taken a surprising turn, like in The Parting of the Ways when the Doctor tricks Rose into going back home for her own safety.
Have a good life.
Or The Age of Steel, when she and her ex-boyfriend Mickey reflect on how far they've come.
Well, then she is just sitting there, imagining what we do one day.
It's an idea that's conveyed musically by this final passage where, rather than resolving to the tonic key, the score modulates to the new key of D major, with a few notes from the D minor scale thrown in just to make it extra bittersweet. It's almost like the C major is our universe, and the D major is the parallel world she's now trapped in. And then just to round things off, Murray goes full Danny Elfman with a majestic choral motif called the Lone Dalek. This cue was first heard in the Series 1 episode Dalek, where it conveyed the pain of being the last of your kind. And it's this awful loneliness that the Doctor now feels without Rose. I love the contrast between the soaring choir and this understated shot of the Doctor wiping away his tears. Even with such subtle visuals, a heart-wrenching score like this can put you in a character's shoes in the most incredible way. The piercing soprano notes can make you feel the weight of a lifetime of solitude and loss. The rumbling timpani can hit you with the impact of a door closed forever. With just 4 carefully placed leitmotifs, Murray Gold brilliantly illustrates the tragedy of the Doctor and Rose. And that's why I think Bad Wolf Bay is one damn good musical scene. Thank you so much for watching. If you don't know, I've got a whole channel full of videos like this. I especially like talking about the music of Doctor Who. I've got a whole playlist of that. I'll put a link. Speaking of playlists, there are a lot more one musical scene videos, so I'll put a link to that. Check it out. I've been Dom the Musician. Until next time, remember. Just generally remember. That's my sign off. Deal with it.